Now, Baldur's Gate 3's had a long period in early access. It's just been released as a full game, so it's now version 1, you might say, or something like that. So it's no longer a beta. Anyway, it's been released a couple of days ago. And when I saw who made it, Larian Studios, I thought, well, they make Divinity, Divinity Original Sin games. I own quite a few of those, the two of those. So I quite enjoyed them. But they did have one niggling little problem. That was that you had to complete the whole level, everything in an area, before you moved on to the next. Otherwise, your character would slowly become incapable of killing the bad guys on the next level. So you just had to finish everything up, get yourself to the max level you could before moving on. And even within the level, you'd find areas which were no-go zones because your character wasn't strong enough to go to that area and complete that area yet. And it was one of the failings. It showed that the game of really actually quite linear. You've got to do things in a certain order in order to get beyond the point you're at now. Otherwise, you just get your ass handed to you. Anyhow, the original Baldur's Gate, Neverwinter Nights, Icewind Dale, all of those series, were known for statistics. Neverwinter Nights was probably the best out of all of them, especially with the expansions, because they added to the game. The expansions all built up on the original game. So when you had all the expansions, you had a really good core game. And it's never been beaten. Not in my experience, it's never been beaten. And now when I heard Baldur's Gate 3 was being made, I was kind of thinking, when the original developers stop making it, gets handed over to somebody else, it tends not to be as good. So I was thinking to myself, I'll hold back on this. I won't go too crazy, So when it came out, I brought it, and Larian Studios have basically made what I consider to be Divinity 3. It's not really Baldur's Gate. It's getting rave reviews because it is a good game, but it isn't Baldur's Gate. It's new developers, new style, new system, new engine, new everything. It's a different game entirely from the one people would have reasonably expected from a Baldur's Gate thing. For instance, when you're leveling up, you get to choose a few skills, maybe spells and that lot, and that's it. Nothing to do with stats anymore or alignments or anything like that. Nothing I can tell anyway. Maybe I need to play into it a bit deeper. But I didn't get any of that kind of choices. It's very, very simple. I tried going to various places and I just got killed by the stupidest things, so I had to knock down the difficulty a little bit as well, because quite frankly I wasn't doing well. But then again, when you get to know a game, you can knock the difficulty back up. Until then, you just got to make do. Usually how it works. Story-wise, it's actually interesting. I'm not really keen on the bad guys in this. They don't really make me. They don't grab me at all. They're not something that I would. If it was a movie, I'd probably stop watching it by now. Put it that way, the story. But the gameplay is actually quite good. I've been quite enjoying it, and the sets are quite good as well. Some of the locations that you see behind me, this is on board a ship, right at the very beginning of the game. It's not too bad, it looks quite nice, but it is a very linear type game in a way. You can explore a map any direction you like, but when you hit something too hard for you, you're going to have to stop, turn around and go back to the area you're supposed to be in. So far though, I haven't been doing too bad. There's only one area I haven't been able to tackle, and that had spiders in it. So I'm doing something right. I'm clearing the area before moving on to the next one, which is what you have to do with Larian's games. You have to make sure you're at the highest level you possibly can by milking every experience point dry before moving on to the next. One thing I do like though is the encounters. They seem to perfecting the encounters. So when you go up to somebody and you start talking to them, it can go one of two ways. It can go violent or it could go, peaceful. Depending on your skills, which are used in these skill checks, it will either become a fight or they'll leave you alone or give in. There's a lot of that going on. There's a lot of skill checks and stuff. And when you do the dice rolls, for these skill checks, I quite like that as well. They made a whole part element of gameplay for it. But it does get a bit dull when you're waiting for that screen to just load up before you can do anything. It's okay the first couple of times, but after that it gets a bit, a bit long-winded. But I do like it, especially the way you can add buffs to the dice roll and then hit, roll, and you can give yourself skills that allow for reroll dice rolls. It makes it feel more AD&D-ish when you do that. I've also noticed that my luck with dice is just as bad on a computer than it is in real life. I've noticed, for instance, a friend of mine always rolls sixes, so he always hits. Trouble is, morale checks, for 40k would get under something, so he always failed his morale checks. His men would always run away. Me, I don't do well with single dice. I do better with multiple dice. I get really good average scores, but I never get a 6. I always get a 1 if I'm rolling a 1 dice, and that still happens. I think there's an element of luck involved in dice, and I think whatever you are, that's just what you have all the way through your life. But anyway, the point is, dice rolls, my dice rolls are just crap, and they're still crap on this, even though it's electronic and digital. But yeah, anyway, the game itself is actually quite nice. I mean, you can see a dice roll taking place now, right behind me here, look. Right, you do it, it does the dice roll. See, I've got 2 there. That's what I mean by terrible dice rolls. So yeah, it's not really that brilliant. Not my dice rolls. Epic failure. There doesn't seem to be a penalty for failure though. Like if you get a critical fail, which I do a lot, you should fall over or something like that. But I never have. I do seem to do alright when walking across webs and stuff. I don't seem to get caught in them because they do skill checks as you walk across slippery surfaces and things like that as well. So that's part of the game as well. I quite enjoy that part. But the rest of it though, it's a good story, but it's not the deep AD&D game or whatever that these series it should be. Neverwinter Nights, Icewind Dale, that kind of thing. It's not that kind of game. Although I like the sets better. You can pretty much search all locations. Everything is searchable. There's no pretty stuff that's just there for eye candy like you get with Obsidian when they do games like this. Because let's face it, right, as my son said to me, nobody talks about Neverwinter Nights 2 anymore. Obsidian made that. Obsidian are one of those companies that just put a lot of eye candy down. The only time a door opens is when a quest needs it. You can't just explore anywhere. Everywhere's locked until the quest needs it, and that's always been their failing. And even when they do do other games, they made the same mistake again and again and again. Not with Larian. Larian will let you go anywhere you like. You can do anything you like. You can do a whole area, but like I said, they have a habit of making some areas tougher than others. So if you get into a fight, you die if you're not high enough. And that's their failing. It's always been their failing. It's less pronounced in this game than it was in previous games, though. So, but I quite like the character generation as well. The character generation of the whole game, when you're making your character, is actually quite good. Although every face feels the same to me until you start putting beards on it and stuff like that. It's almost like they've got the same core face, and they just change the colour a little bit or something, and a little scarier. And it's only when you start putting hair on and stuff it starts looking different. So there's not enough variety in the faces, if you ask me. But the characters and stuff like that are quite good. I haven't really had much shop for armour. The other thing is as well, traditionally you get shops where you can go and you can buy things. In Larian games you tend not to. There's no shops usually. The only places I've been to that had anything like a shop was in a glade, and he wasn't going to sell me anything. He wasn't going to pay for anything I had, and I haven't seen many opportunities to sell anything I'm carrying. So I'm thinking, is it like the other Larian games where you're just going to drop anything you're not using and carry on? Because that's a major part of the game, is upgrading your hardware. Going to shops that I've got 2,000 gold, I'm going to buy that fancy sword. But if you don't have it in the game, then it's just a huge part of the game's missing. That's in my opinion anyway, and that seems to be the case here. But it's still a good game though. I'm still enjoying it. I don't know if any of you guys play RPGs, this type of RPGs. I always have. It goes back to Eye of the Beholder and Black Crypt and some games like that, some adventures at the time, so I've always enjoyed them. So I actually like the old school versions more, but I think there's a room now for marrying the two. And I'm not talking about it Grimlock, is it? Where it's basically old school, pure old school. I'm actually something more modern, but with some of these statistics, you know, like you're getting Neverwinter Nights, because that would work out quite well. Combat in it though, it's turn based, and you take it in turns based on initiative. I've had no problems with that either. That's actually working quite well. It's just that some encounters you're vastly overwhelmed by whatever's attacking you, so you don't stand much of a chance. And one of the difficulties says tactician. And I thought, you don't need a tactician in them situations, you need a miracle. But yeah. But anyway, this playthrough here is my second playthrough. I played through it a bit, made a paladin, then I didn't go far, right? I've already gone past a bit. But this is the second playthrough, and with a normal fighter and stuff like that. So I'm hoping it'll do better. It seems to be doing better. But you do get different dialogue depending on what kind of character you're running. So they're doing quite well on that as well. I would say from dialogue choices, Larian's done really well in this game. It does feel more like an RPG in that respect. I just wish it had the character stats you could increase and stuff, and had more control over how your character develops than you currently do. But it's a good game. I'm enjoying it. I'm pretty sure most of you guys will enjoy it too when you get to play it, like if you're already playing it. But it has been out for a while on early access, so I'd expect quite a few people to have seen it already and know what's going on in it. If they haven't seen the whole game, fair enough. But it's about 122 gig download, I believe. If you're out on, say, fibre, it takes a long time. I think my son was downloading it for 19 hours. Took me an hour and a half, you know, on fibre. So, but the fibre in this area is quite quick, so I've got no complaints about that. I think he does. He lives in a similar area to me, not too far, but you can't get fibre in that area due to issues with where he lives. So yeah, but yeah, it's a good game. It's a good game. It fills a niche, doesn't it? Whilst we wait for other games to come out like Starfield. So, but right now there isn't much coming out that's worthwhile, so I grabbed this one with both hands and decided to play it. That's why I haven't really produced many videos of late, because there's nothing to talk about. There's nothing of interest coming out. And sadly, you know, if there's nothing of interest coming out, I can either make up and waffle like other channels do, or just not produce something and save all the effort for some time when I do see something nice. Anyway, do I recommend it? Yeah, I think I would. It's not Baldurs Gate that I know. It's definitely nothing to do with... there's it levelling up now, look. This is what I mean, if you can see it. In fact, I'll show you it later. But if... it's not the Baldurs Gate that I know, but it's a good Larian game, if you understand me. If you like Divinity 2, then yeah, it's more like that. Anyway, I'll see you in the next one. Hope you enjoyed the video. Hit like and subscribe if you did, and I'll see you in the next one.